Are we nearly there yet? That's the constant refrain on any Drew family car journey that's longer than 10 minutes. Are we nearly there yet? It's a phrase that speaks of impatience, and it's especially maddening if you're the driver. But it's also a phrase that speaks of longing, of hope, of something really good guaranteed at the end of the drive. Time and again, the Bible speaks of that longing, that frustration that things could be so much better. And even though we've been promised that they will one day indeed be better, well, can't we just skip ahead to that bit now and spare ourselves all the unpleasantness and the inconvenience of the in-between times? St. Paul says, creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. The whole creation has been groaning in labour pains until now. And not only creation, but we ourselves groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, for redemption. Not only do we as Christians long for better days, but all of humanity does. In fact, our whole world is crying out for healing, for wholeness, for redemption, for peace. We all long for better days. Are we nearly there yet? But although the journey is long and the arrival time unknown, Christians are urged not to despair. Jesus tells his disciples that there will come a time when all of the bad things, all the terrible things, all those intent on doing evil, all those stumbling blocks that cause us to trip and fall short of what we could be, one day all of that will be uprooted and separated away from God's good creation. To be completely honest with you, these past few weeks have been pretty challenging. A number of times I've been tempted to despair over big things as well as over shamefully insignificant ones. There've been quite a lot of I can'ts and it won'ts and it nevers and even one or two I quits. Funny how we talk ourselves out of things, how we tell ourselves we're not worthy, we're not capable, that we're a lost cause. It's hard to choose hope when failure and frustration and suffering are so real, and when hope feels like a faraway fantasy. But we're not called to choose the easy path, are we? Paul says, you didn't receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear. You've received a spirit of adoption. When we cry, Daddy, Father, it's that very spirit bearing witness with our own spirit that we are children of God, heirs with God, joint heirs with Christ. And as God's children, we're called to shun that spirit of fear and despair and embrace the spirit of adoption and hope. Deciding to follow Jesus is a decision to reject fear and choose hope. And if you're like me, it's not a one-time thing, but a lifetime's project, something you have to keep doing consciously along the way. Are we nearly there yet? But we're not in the driver's seat, are we? I'm not sure I can see the sat-nav, to be honest, and no matter how much humans love to pretend that we're in control of the journey and the destination, well, that's mere fantasy. But we're not completely powerless, and we're not called just to tune out, to have a nap in the back seat while we're transported passively down the road to our final destination. The kingdom of God is so richly intertwined with this world that sometimes it's hard to know where one ends and the other begins. And as children adopted by God, we're called to be agents of the kingdom in the midst of this broken world. To a world that every day asks, are we nearly there yet? We're called to be dealers in hope and redemption, to offer glimpses of that coming harvest when our whole world, not just humanity, will be redeemed. And in the meantime, we're called to roll up our sleeves and get stuck in sowing that hope, preparing the way of Christ. Paul says we should wait for that promised future with patience, but I'm afraid I disagree. I think we should be utterly impatient for God's kingdom to come, that we shouldn't stop asking, are we nearly there yet? Because when we've stopped asking that question, maybe it's because we've forgotten where we're going. Maybe it's because we've got too comfortable with the way things are. Even if the rest of the world, even if those around us allow themselves to give in to futility, to believe the lie that this is as good as it gets, that there is no redemption, no hope, as those who follow Christ, we're called to march to a different drumbeat. Refusing to despair, refusing to accept the narrative that there is no hope, refusing to give up is an act of godly rebellion in the name of the kingdom of heaven. So let's not lose sight of that destination. Let's be like that 7-year-old in the back of the car, just desperate to reach Nanny's house and driving everyone else up the wall along the way. Let's show others the postcards and tell them the stories and give them a glimpse of where we're going, of the real hope that we have for today and the promises yet to come. Lord, grant us the impatience to see your kingdom come here on earth. Are we nearly there yet?